Barrington Noble Union Square, please give a warm welcome to international best-selling author Kevin Kwan and host of Pour It Over, BNN's Miwa Messer.
Oh, hello, New York. So, Kevin Kwan, do you really need an introduction? Crazy Rich Asians? Everyone here has read Crazy Rich Asians, right? Okay. You know, there's Crazy Rich Asians, there's Sex and Vanity Asians, now there's Lies and Weddings Asians. There's also LL Bean Asians. Am I the only one? Oh, God, I am the only one. Okay. Sorry, some of us grew up outside of Boston. Which I'm saying to a dude from Houston, but okay. So, Kevin Kwan, how did we get to Lies and Weddings?
So surreal. And first of all, I'm so happy to be here. This is really, really amazing. Thank you all for coming tonight. So my first Barnes & Noble event ever.
When you said that, I was just like, wait, what?
I know, it's
How
crazy,
is this
but,
possible?
Yeah. I'm very afraid of her, by the way. But
Okay, wait a minute. So Amy Tan threw herself into a social media post and she was like, oh, no, you'll be great. And I was like, okay. Now I really can't mess this up.
We go on. How did we get to Lies and Weddings? I had severe writer's block. I was meant to write one book, started writing it, hated it, made lots of excuses. And then I went to Hawaii.
Right.
I was invited at the very last minute to go to Hawaii over Christmas, New Year's 2021. And I got there and I was on this road and I was looking at the sea turtles and something happened. And I started writing a chapter a day, which, as you know, is unheard of.
Well, also probably the fastest you personally have ever written.
Initially, yes.
Okay.
So I stayed. So I ended up staying 6 weeks in Hawaii, was averaging, a chapter a day the first 2 weeks, and then it slowed down. But it was still, the story was finally coming in the way that, a volcano erupts.
Were those initial chapters, were those initial chapters chronological, or were you, because I kind of feel like the characters showed up first, and now I'm looking at you going, you're telling me that individual chapters showed up.
I write completely chronologically.
Wow. Okay, seriously?
I really do. And I never go back.
Okay, how many of you had a chance to dip into the book while you were sitting here waiting for us to... Okay, so we're in 1995 in Hong Kong, and that's a doozy of an opening, and I am not going to spoil it for the rest of you. I promise you, when you leave us tonight and go home, you will read this in a night. You will not parcel this out. Because one of the fun things about reading you, and this has been true for every single book, is that your fiction is propulsive. You write wild page-turners with footnotes. We need to talk about the footnotes, because I love your footnotes, and I do not miss your footnotes. Okay, you're writing a chapter a day. You've got this amazing cast. You're still working in your footnotes, because obviously if you're not going back to add them later... Did you have this whole thing worked out?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. No, to me, it's still a jumbled mess of a book. To me, I'm like, I see all the holes.
Hi, this reader says no.
I see all the stuff that needs to be fixed.
No, this reader says no.
But it's too late to fix. So. Sorry, you're stuck with it.
I promise you, that's a little bit of a misdirection. It really is. This book is an absolute delight. And Rufus and Eden, I think, are my favorite Kevin Kwan creations thus far.
Wow. Thank you.
They really... No. You guys are going to be so pleased when you meet these guys. You're going to be so pleased. And as I was sitting down to prep, I'm thinking about Annabelle, who's Rufus's mom. I'm thinking about Rufus's sisters. But the dads, we've got a couple of really groovy, mellow dads in this book. We've got Thomas, who's Eden's dad, and we've got Francis, who's Rufus's dad. And it felt like for the first time for me, dads were finally in the picture.
Thank you for noticing.
Okay, can we talk about the dads for a second? They're very groovy characters. Can we talk about the dads?
Absolutely. Let's go there.
All right, so tell me, where did they come from? When did you, what is happening with the dads?
Strange things just brew in my mind. And I felt like it was time, after 3 books where the women just are in control and dominant, and the men are henpecked. it was time for the dads
These dads are so mellow.
kind of assert themselves in a little way. And they do a little bit. A little bit.
They do assert themselves. They show up for their families, though, in ways that are possibly surprising, which is a delight, right? Because who really wants to walk into a book and be like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen? Like, that's not so interesting. But I like the way you pull together different generations, you pull together different storylines, you pull together some folks where I may have had some editorial comments about in my galley. Annabelle, I'm looking at you. I mean, we'll come to her in a second. But the dads, like, you kind of understand Rufus and Eden when you meet their dads. And it's a delight.
I really had fun with that.
Yeah, good.
You know?
I'm glad to hear that. But is this a tighter cast? I think this is a tighter cast in a weird way. I mean, in terms of the main characters, right? Like, we've got...
Yeah. It's a family, right?
Yeah.
It's one unit.
And it's basically 7 people that were sort of circling the whole time, and I feel like you've gotten really focused in a new way. Am I right about that?
Maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, this is also, I have to tell you, poor Kevin has been doing promotion for this book since 4:30 this morning. And now I'm feeling
coasting on caffeine. But
I'm feeling very, very guilty because I did not know this until a few minutes ago, and now I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I will try and make this entertaining for you. I'm also trying not to fangirl too hard because you're doing stuff in this book that you can see sort of the runway happening in Crazy Rich Asians. You're talking, though, about class in a new way. You're talking about representation in a new way. You're talking about gender in a new... all of these things. And I'm like, really? That all came out of 6 weeks in Hawaii?
The turtles are magical.
Oh, please tell me you were not licking turtles.
No,
okay.
I was not.
I promise you that joke will pay off when you read the book. It's not going to pay off right now, but it will pay off.
No turtles were licked. They were respected. You're not even supposed to go near them on the beach. You're supposed to stay 20 feet away.
I haven't been to Hawaii in a really long time, so my chances of walking into a turtle in Hawaii are not huge. But what was it about Hawaii that got everything moving for you? I mean, did you just need to be in a place you had not been before? Did you just need to shake everything up?
I definitely think so.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it also was, we were just coming out really fully of 2 years where no one could really travel that much.
Especially to Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii was really, really closed.
Was really locked down. So to have that freedom again, I think it finally freed my mind to fully think about this book and commit to doing it. Okay. Because when I write, I go into a cave for 2 years and my whole life falls apart. And all I do is write and write and write. And I become obsessed with the characters. And so I needed to ready myself for that. So Hawaii, I think, was the reset.
Okay.
That allowed me to go, okay, we're going to go deep.
So how much of that becomes research? I mean, the level of detail, and I mean, not that I'm staying in 5-star hotels, mind you, but it seems to me that you get really involved in like half of the fun of reading you is like the art and the artists and the food and the settings and all of this. And I feel like, well, okay, some of Hawaii pops up in this novel, but let's talk about the other bits of research, because last I knew you were not living in an English village.
I was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give it up.
Villages are easy to visit.
Okay.
Restaurants are easy to visit. Hotels are harder.
Yeah.
Hotels you have to kind of like finagle and beg to visit a property, tour a property. But I really do try to go to every place I write about. I need to see the room and smell the air and taste the food. So, but I didn't do that all in 2 years, right? A lot of it is based on places I've been in my life, right? And I've spent a lot of time in England, so...
Okay. So we're in England, we're in Los Angeles, we're in Marrakesh, we're in Venice, what am I missing? Oh, Hawaii. Paris.
London.
I mean, you're everywhere in this novel in a way that you haven't been really in the previous. But I mean, there was some bouncing between...
It didn't annoy you? You were fine?
I totally bought into it. I totally bought into it, but also, I mean, I have also done Taipei for a weekend, for a family wedding, so I'm kind of okay on a plane. And I've been dying to go to Marrakesh. So I will live vicariously through the scene I'm not going to tell you guys about. I'm going to leave it for you, because I do not believe in spoilers. But you've dug in. One, this is, I think, the longest novel you've ever written. This is clocking in at 400-something pages.
It turned out to be, yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's 400. You know how sometimes you sit down with a book and you're like, okay, it got a little slow here. It got no. The escape velocity of this story is extraordinary. And how do you pace out something like this? You're deep into it. You're attached to the characters in a way that, hopefully will become attached. But you've got to do the heavy lifting. So what does that look like?
I think I'm a benefit of really great TV.
Okay.
So I think of Lost, for example.
Okay.
Where every episode ends on a cliffhanger. And I try to recreate that in my books. I want to leave you surprised. I want to leave you devastated. I want to leave you not wanting to put it down. Like, turn the page, start a new chapter.
Oh, I'm not kidding when I say I read this in a night. Oh, no. This was not parse it out, I don't want it to end. It was, I need to know what's happening now, and then I can sleep. I mean, okay. I'm seeing lots of heads nodding. You know what I'm talking about. But you do dig into our humanity in sort of a new way, right? Like, you've always been able to make fun of the snobs, and you've always been able to make fun of sort of the status symbols of it all. And there's a character in here, the son of someone who... it was a satisfying read, let's put it that way, because you are kind of relentless and you're making fun of him. But I feel like
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, Renee Tan's son.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The kid
So
with the
I feel
garage.
like I make fun of a lot of people.
I know, but the kid with the garage is who I'm really specifically thinking. I mean, yes, but I do feel like you dug in on some stuff that you hadn't, like, it was starting to percolate really with Sex and Vanity. There's a lot of talk about being biracial. There's a lot of talk about what it means to be Asian. There's a lot of talk about the things that create us and the difference between being Asian American and Asian or Asian Brit. I mean, you're parsing some stuff that we don't always as a community talk about. What was that like for you?
Writing for me is always a journey of discovery, right?
Okay.
And I think also, since I wrote my first novel, Crazy Rich Asians, I've also learned and grown.
Right.
And sort of met more people and experienced more in terms of the different facets of being Asian American, half Asian, British Asian. And you really see that it's we're not a monolith, as you know, right? And everyone's experience is so different. And it's so affected by where they are, the time they live in, as you see. And you see that represented throughout this book. You have Arabella, who's a certain generation.
That's
Of
generation.
Hong Kong.
Yep.
This is the Countess in my book, who was born in Hong Kong, but then moved as a young adult to Europe, to England. And how do you survive in that culture? And this whole new series, beginning of Sex and Vanity, was an examination into that, of Asians outside of Asia, and how they all adapt and evolve in very different ways. And so for me, it was just discovering that, and also discovering my place in that, as I discovered my Asianness.
What does your Asianness mean to you? What does that mean?
I literally did not think about it for decades.
Okay.
Because I think when you move here and you assimilate, you have to sublimate it.
Yeah. So I had a really different experience of it because I was born in Boston and I integrated every single space I was in pretty much until high school. And that was a trip. That was a total trip. And then I also have a lot of family in Asia, so there was a lot of spending summer vacations in places where, other people would go down the block to visit their grandparents, and I got a passport when I was really small, and I thought everyone got a passport. I just thought that's what you did. You went to a foreign country to visit your grandparents. So, part of the fun for me reading these books is watching sort of how the other side of things are. I have cousins in Asia, and I'm close to quite a few of them, and their experience of the world is so different from mine. It's so different. Also, I can tell you my accent when I speak Chinese is impossibly bad. It is so bad. And my Japanese is passable, but I really don't have the vocabulary that I have in English, so I'm sort of left to point at menus, and it's not your world of, Asia and all of that. But What was Houston like for you as a young person? Because Houston's where you discovered Joan Didion. It's where you decided you were going to be a writer. It's where you learned to cut grass. I mean, I love this.
You've been reading.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. But I love this picture of you in Houston because it sounds like you really were an all-American kid.
You know, I had to be, right?
Yeah.
The culture shock was so deep.
Okay.
Being taken out of Singapore and then placed into one of the most all-American towns you can imagine.
Right.
And like I tell people, and it's true, I had to lose my accent, which was much more British,
Right.
you know, by third period of my first day in intermediate school, because I realized, ooh, I'm going to got locked in a locker forever. I get shoved into a locker, and you'll never see me again if I don't become American, like now, you know. And then I had a great time. You know, and it was a great place to kind of discover America and learn how to be American. And,
So how much of that learning to be American is literary influences? I know we've just talked about television, but I mean, in the past, you've talked about Sex and Vanity being a very sort of Victorian novel, right, after E.M. Forster kind of thing. And there's a little bit of Trollope. There's a nod to Trollope in Lies and Weddings, and do not let that turn you off. I promise you, Trollope, totally worth it. You know, Henry James, I would not be quite so forceful about it. But I do, like, when did you come to, was it really when you got handed a copy of A Common Prayer by Joan Didion, or were you noodling before that?
It began earlier than that.
Okay, so do you remember the book that made you a reader?
Lace by Shirley Conran.
Okay. That's fair. No, it's totally fair.
But that was before I moved. I mean, I was always a reader. I was a reader, a voracious reader as a young kid.
Okay.
But I think in the U.S., right, that's where I discovered Fitzgerald, who I loved, right? That's where I discovered Aldous Huxley. And
so you went straight for the greats. You were not messing around. You went straight from Shirley Conran.
yeah.
I love
skipped
this.
around.
Okay, I love this trajectory, though. This makes me really happy because, I mean, if you're reading that widely, right, you're going to pull from lots of different places. And I feel like, okay, I'm not going to deny that I've read Lace. Like, I'm of a certain age. I would be lying if I said I hadn't read Lace. But the pacing, same thing. It's like you're pulling from all these disparate places. And I get these groovy insights to people that I want to keep hanging out with, even when Arabella is driving me around the bend, because Mama Bear wants what's best, and I'm using air quotes, for her children. And she makes a couple of decisions that I understand for the character. Absolutely. I have met women like Arabella. I have survived women like Arabella. Not in my direct family. When did you know you had her voice right? Because she could have tipped into caricature really easily. And you did not do that.
She was always the easiest character voice to channel.
Really? Okay.
Truly.
Why?
I don't know, but I think it's well, I do know, actually, because I think there have been so many strong Asian female figures dominating my life.
Okay, wait.
So it was easy to go there.
Okay, does Asian mom death stare still stop you in your tracks?
I know the stare. I haven't experienced it personally.
Your mom doesn't use it?
My mom does not use it.
Wait, how many of you had a mom who's deployed Asian mom death stare on you? Okay, so y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, my mom is dead, and I know when she's flinging Asian mom death stare at me.
my mom was an outlier. Is an outlier. She's
all right. Oh,
She's,
man.
very different.
Okay. Well,
But I've seen those
props
women.
to your mom. Total props to your mom. But really, even now, I mean, I ignore it, but still, you know it when it's being directed at you. You feel it,
And it's impressive.
It'll stop you at 50 paces.
Super impressive. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I do have a couple of audience questions though, and I want to work them in a little bit. If you could be any character from any of your books, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, how to choose? I think it'd be fun to be Eddie, cousin Eddie, for a day. Just because you get to be as obnoxious as you want, right? And you get to just be that ultimate snob and not have the self-awareness to care, you know? For me, I always feel like I'm always about to cringe at everything, right? So But he is completely unabashed.
Yeah.
And there's something that fascinates me about people like that, who just are completely themselves, and they're going there 150% of the day.
And they're really funny, and they don't know it.
They don't even know it.
They have no idea how funny they are. So I want to talk about writing comedy for a second, because writing comedy is hard. Writing good comedy is even harder. Where's the funny come from? Is it just you being on the edges, sort of looking at these people going, they have no idea?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I write, first of all, to make myself laugh.
Okay.
So I feel like if I'm laughing, hopefully my audience is laughing with me, But it has to pass my joke meter first. And I love looking at the absurdity of life and people who behave outrageously and don't even know it. And oftentimes it's usually the most pretentious people
Right.
who are behaving that way. And that instinct fascinates me. Because I unfortunately know a lot of those people. I've encountered a lot of them. So it's fun. This is my private revenge.
Okay, that's a way of looking at it. I'm also just thinking, too, that you notice everything then. I mean, if you're pulling from passing moments and you're pulling from your own experience, you've been around for a minute and a half and you've lived in some really interesting places, but you notice everything. Are you taking notes when you're walking around in the world, or you just simply...
Just in my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just programmed this way to notice every single thing. What did you learn writing Crazy Rich Asians that you took to other books?
I think ultimately what I learned most was to go with your gut and not censor yourself, right? And just have fun in the ridiculous.
I appreciate that.
If you're thinking too much, you're in your head and you're not really expressing. So I try as much as possible to take out all the commentators, don't think about anyone but the story itself and what the characters want.
Have readers' responses surprised you? I mean, you've met a lot of readers since 2013. A lot of readers.
I'm constantly surprised.
Okay.
Surprised, yeah.
What's the biggest surprise?
That anyone's even reading my books, first of all. It's really, truly such a privilege that anyone is even reading this thing that I wrote. It's just kind of unbelievable, seriously.
Okay, says the guy who's been translated into 40 languages, and I think total combined sales are over 5 million, right? Okay. So, yeah, you can be totally sanguine about
But are they really reading?
I think the way you write, yes. But more importantly, representation. I mean, you've been put in a position where you have been able to change some of the conversation around Asia, around Asian Americans, about your own self in the world. And part of me thinks, oh, that's kind of an overwhelming responsibility. And part of me thinks, well, yay, please, more of this. And I'm wondering where you fall into that continuum.
I mean, I feel like I just stumbled into this, literally fell into it. And if I think about responsibility, that's going to freeze me up, right? I feel like that was the icing on the cake, and I'm happy to serve, but it was really quite unintentional.
Okay. Unintentional, yes, but also this dude was at one point thinking he might self-publish his first book, and I was like, really? You kind of were just going to do this no matter what, right? You weren't thinking, I need an agent, I need a publisher, I need the entire machinery behind me. You were like, I'm going to do this and give it to my friends for a laugh.
Well, I have a lot of amazing creative friends who self-generate.
Okay.
A lot of my friends are downtown artists, choreographers, people who really just do what they want and present it to the world, right? So I felt this is the only way to do it, and I'm doing this to share with my friends, purely for their amusement. And then someone here convinced me that I need to do otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, another audience question. It's said that your craft helps you discover yourself. What have you learned about yourself in pursuit of your craft?
Wow, how long do you have? I mean,
We have
yeah.
as much time as you need to answer this question
Yeah.
because I would like to know this answer.
Well, I hate talking about myself, so I think I've learned that it's possible to really kind of take risks in life, and sort of trust your creativity. Because I think that so much of society, the world we live in, tries to tamp that down and says, no, 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 you got to conform, you got to conform. Don't stick out, go with the herd. And I've learned to really trust a different instinct and say, no, I'm going to do that.
And it's worked.
And it's working, yeah. Knock on wood, yeah.
It's really working.
Okay.
I promise, it's working. What's a day in the life of Kevin Kwan during the writing process? What does that look like?
Oh gosh, angst and agony all day long. I wake up, I caffeinate, I drink some coffee, I go to my little writer's corner, and I just basically start writing. And it's really a discipline. It's like going to the gym, basically, and this is my gym. I wish I could really go to a real gym because I'd be in much better shape if I spent as much time as I did in my writing, but I write usually from 9 to 1, pretty nonstop. And then I take a break, have lunch, and then check emails, answer voicemails, the business of life takes over between like 1 and 4.
So you're not in full goblin mode when
No.
you're writing. Okay, this makes me feel a little better. I was
Yeah.
worried there for a second that you just disappeared and
Yeah.
that was it and nothing was going to come of anything else.
Yeah. And then I start up again at around 4 or 5, and I write till 8.
Okay.
So if I can get 6 good hours, I'm happy.
So Sex and Vanity was 2020. That came out sort of right as things were super weird. 4 years later, we get
Lies and
Lies
Weddings.
and Weddings. I kind of feel like, though, you were sort of thinking about them in tandem without knowing that you were thinking about them in tandem. I mean, are you sitting down and creating the thing that's in front of you? Or are you thinking, well, maybe I'll get a trilogy out of this. Maybe there's a world
The
happening
trilogy
here.
was always intentional.
Okay.
So from
Okay.
the start, I thought the new series, post Crazy Rich Asians, is going to be I called it the Cities trilogy. The first city was New York with Sex and Vanity. The second city was London with Lies and Weddings, and the third city is Paris with the next book.
So does that mean you're working on the new thing?
I am so not. I'm going on tour. I'm on tour, so
But I've just heard all of this conventional wisdom saying start the next thing when the new thing is hitting the world, and not so much, huh?
not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I need a break.
What?
I barely just finished this book. So.
It's true, but I mean, I've read it a couple of times because we
Yeah.
got the galleys really early. And I mean, sometimes you get a package from a publisher and you get really excited. And maybe you tear into something really, really quickly, and then you have to go back to prep. What do you do when you get writer's block?
I write my way out of it, and I think that comes from that daily practice of you have a problem, you just keep trying, right? A lot of things you throw away, but you just keep on going, and as you go along, something good happens.
So, problem being character not doing what you think they ought to be doing, or settings not working, or just, not a great idea? I mean, what are we talking about when we talk about problem?
It's usually, not a great idea.
Okay.
I'll write a chapter and I'll be like, this did nothing for me. Abandon ship. So I can tell pretty quickly, if it's not propelling me forward.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I write chronologically.
Yeah.
If it's not helping to add to the puzzle, you got to take that piece out.
Okay, I really love this idea of you writing chronologically. It's really rare that you hear someone say, "No, I just sit down and I go." Right? How many of you here are writers? Okay, so this is not the easiest thing in the world, right? And I'm really fascinated by this because I'm thinking
I don't know any other way to write.
Okay.
Like that to And I know what you're talking about because so many writers, they really sort of sketch and piece things together, and then it just slowly all coheres. I don't know what's happening until I finish this chapter.
And then you hand in this thing that is so wildly cinematic. Obviously, Crazy Rich Asians, huge success. Really great to see all of those faces, like We Are Multitudes, and Sex and Vanity is coming at some point. Have you started pre-production on Sex and Vanity?
I don't know what to call it,
Okay.
but it's
coming.
It's coming.
Okay. That's what we can say. So
It's more than development. It's really cohering in the most beautiful way.
Okay.
The director is here tonight
Wait.
somewhere.
She was here a second ago.
Right there.
Okay.
Diane
Hi.
Paragas. Very excited. So
Lies and Weddings, has that been optioned yet? Are we waiting? Can we not talk about that?
we're waiting.
Okay.
We're waiting.
Because I really, there are a couple of scenes specifically where I'm like, don't cut that out of the movie. And no, I'm not going to tell you what they are because you're going to have the same response. I promise you will know it when you see it. That's the beauty of reading Kevin, right? Like, you know where you are in the story and who these people are and how much time you want to spend with them. And the way you tie up a couple of storylines in this one, so satisfying. So satisfying.
I want to know which scenes there. You'll have to tell me.
I will
offline.
tell you,
Yeah.
while we're setting up the signing part, then I will tell you what's going on. But yeah, I really like these characters. Even when Annabelle was driving me around the bend, I still get her. She's really ambitious. She doesn't really have a place for that ambition. Part of it, I mean, seriously, she's got people in her little English village walking up and saying, "Are you the nanny?" to her in front of her own children.
True story.
Yeah.
Actually happened to a friend of mine.
I believe it. I've actually had that happen to me with my nieces and nephews, and I'm like, no, really, I'm the auntie. Peace out. I am not meant to be a nanny. Thank you very much. It's wild, the assumptions that still come. And I'm like, it's 2024. My parents were groundbreakers in their own ways. It's always very entertaining when the dry cleaner says, "Hello, Mr. Messer," and my dude looks at him and goes, "That's not my name." It's really fun. It's really, really fun. How have you changed over this series? Like, you as a writer, as a creative. We don't have to talk about you personally, but I think there probably has been some new terrain.
I think I'm able to feel the confidence of being able to experiment more,
Okay.
right? And I think that hopefully comes across.
Oh, it definitely comes across in this book.
I'm able to play more and feel confident playing in that way.
I love that description because I can feel it on the page. And there are some moments in this book where, stuff happens and you think, oh, and not in a bad way. It's just you get really involved in the story, right? Because you're reading Kevin. You have such a heart, even with the tricky characters, right? And there are a couple of characters in this book where you're like, okay, not everyone is, not
Thank
everyone
you.
is someone you'd like to hang out with. How do you keep your compassion in the face of a story? Like, I understand that you're writing to discover what's going on, but you also make choices as the author.
I don't believe in villains.
Okay.
That's the thing, right? I think everyone is multifaceted and everyone has a reason and an intention of why they're acting the way they are.
Right.
And very few people are acting out of pure evil,
Right.
right? They might be acting out of self-centeredness, but I like to sort of look behind the action and see what is it about this person that makes them a snob? What is it about this person that makes them a tiger mom?
Can
what
we
was the
retire
trigger?
that phrase, tiger
Yeah.
mom? Can we not use that?
I even cringed when I said it.
I saw
So,
you cringe,
yeah.
and that's why I'm taking the opportunity. You opened the door. I'm just
Yeah.
walking through it.
It'll be never said again. By me, at least.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe by the two of us.
Yeah.
But tiger moms do, and I just broke our edict, but it does bring us to respectability politics. And money plays into that, and money doesn't play into that. Being biracial plays into that. I mean, respectability politics is something that plenty of your characters deal with, right? From any point, right? Like there's no one has a market cornered on respectability politics when you're reading a Kevin Kwan novel. But how do you juggle that and stay true to the story? I mean, you don't write polemics, but you do. You land a couple of nice shots, let's put it that way. How do you balance all of it?
I think a lot of it is about balance. It's like I don't want to hit people over the head, right? At the end of the day, I'm trying to create a fun, page-turning ride. Maybe you pause every now and then, and maybe some things hit home in a deep way. But at the end of the day, you're reading for pleasure. You're not reading to be lectured to. Right. And so I really pay attention to that when I'm writing. Like, and once again, it goes back to watching great TV, watching shows like Lost and Mad Men, and how do you sustain an audience and keep them loving a book? That really does occupy my time when I'm constructing something. Like, how can I make this fun for you, right?
Okay, so how much of the writing then is rewriting? I mean, if you're not going back, I'm still, as you can tell, I'm still trying to puzzle this out, because you're like, and then I don't go back. Like, you must deliver the cleanest manuscripts ever.
I'm a very lazy writer. I try to do the minimal, So, yeah, I do a draft. Maybe I do, a little polish, but I move on. That's why I never remember what happens in my books, because literally I wrote it 2 years ago, chapter 1.
I kind of love this. I kind of really love this.
And I go back, I'm like, oh my God, who wrote that? That happened? Because I don't go back.
All right, so you could easily surprise yourself and not know exactly what that moment is.
I often do, in the writing process.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were a lot of interviews that you did on behalf of Crazy Rich Asians, the film. And what was interesting to me was that so many of them came with the film, and yet you'd already published 3 novels. They'd all sat on the top of the New York Times bestseller list at the same time. Like, this is kind of a big deal, y'all. And really, it was when film came knocking, and no one really knew. Like, we hoped that Crazy Rich Asians could be a thing on the screen, but you don't really know, right? Like, you just don't always know. What was it like the first time you saw a cut of that film? I mean, because if you're not quite remembering what you'd written this book 5 years before. So what's it like for you watching John Chu's film?
I mean, the film was so different than the books, first
completely.
of all, right? And I was prepared for that. And I, read every iteration of the script, and I was so probably more involved than any author's ever been.
Right, okay.
In recent memory in a movie, and that was because of John, because John really trusted me to be part of it, and and I trusted him to make his movie. I told him, like, I will never give you a single piece of criticism unless you ask for it. Okay. I will be here to answer questions, and that's it. But it's your set, it's your movie. And so I loved watching what he put on screen, and he put me in a private screening room with a big box of tissues. I've never told him this, but I didn't cry.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and it was just, he surprised me in how he interpreted my book. And I love that. Like, I never wanted a complete iteration of my book on screen, So for me, it was really a treat to see what choices he'd made, what he'd changed. And so much of his own story and his family story and his experience being an Asian wove its way through that story too. So a film is always a collaboration. Yeah. And so for me, it was nothing but pure joy, just seeing the choices he made, seeing some of the lines, seeing some of the characters pop out that I remember. But it's very much its own thing, as it should be.
I'm really loving this idea too, that you've got all of the, like, you've got the books, which clearly driven by you. You've got the film pieces where you get to participate, but still you're a little hands off. The audiobooks, by the way, which I realize are not necessarily directly your thing. The audiobooks are fun. Highly recommend if you're an audiobook person.
We have a new audiobook reader on this book.
Oh, okay.
So the last 3 were read by Lydia Look, incredible actress, amazing. And this time, my publisher wanted to try something different, also because the characters are British.
Right, and you need a little different, but...
And we were even thinking of having a male actor, because this is the dude book, right? The father's Rufus, And so we entertained that. We went and cast and heard some male voices, and finally we cast Jing Lucy, who plays Amanda in Crazy Rich Asians, is the reader for the audiobook, and she's, English Chinese. So it was really, an interesting, lovely choice.
And also, I think there is, like, when I think of the actor who read Midnight's Children, the Salman Rushdie, like, same thing, like that Indian Anglo kind of tone. It does matter. I mean, the experience is just not the same. And so for you in this book to pull in all of these different pieces of the globe, right? Because even though everyone has, for the most part, quite a lot of money, the experience is still wildly different, right? Like, we still come from the families we come from. We still come from the places we come from. And to watch your characters go through this thing where they're like, oh, there's a dude who leaves New England and ends up in the back of this story, and he's a delight. And I'm not saying that sarcastically at all. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I went to college with that guy. That guy still exists. But it's fun.
He was a fun one to write.
Yeah. I mean, when you said that you had a really different sense of play as you were writing this book, I can absolutely feel that, having read it. It's just a joy. It's an absolute joy to read. And I cannot wait for all of you to experience the pleasure. So I'm going to say, thank you, Kevin Kwan. This has been an absolute treat, but we've got some folks who would really like to get their books signed. So thank you. This is Poured Over.
Yeah.
And Kevin Kwan.
Thanks, Miwa. That was so much
fun. Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.